Hello and welcome to Castle for One Games. I am George Castle and today I'll be playing Amalfi Renaissance, designed by Takeo Yamada. This is a 1 to 4 player game, but today I'll be playing a couple of rounds of the solo mode to mainly give you an idea of how the mechanisms work. So we'll be playing against an AI rival, the Kingdom of Naples, emeritus vassal of the Kingdom of Spain, one of two major powers of the time. Since this presentation's objective is mainly to give you the solo experience through teaching and playing, I will try, but I can't promise, to not cover as much of the general game rules as possible and focus just on the rules of the solo mode. Now, the game consists of ship placement, hand management, contracts, and requires resources to move. The solo mode is a low maintenance mechanism that's just meant to block your moves in hopes of keeping your scores low, since this is a beat your own score game with some tier levels of difficulty. And the game flow is you perform an action and the AI performs a reaction turn. That references a table of actions found in the rulebook. Now, I'll be skipping around and fast forwarding some sections to make sure you get the most out of the AI experience. And with all that out of the way, let's sail. Welcome to Amalfi, one of the main maritime republics of Europe during the Renaissance period. In this map, you will focus on navigating to destinations around the board in search of resources that will help you become the most prominent representative of the Amalfi Renaissance. As you can see, I've placed a sticker of a star that represents the bay where your ship will be departing from. This is your player board. Basically a close-up of the star showing the bay in Amalfi, off the coast of Italy in the Campania region. And if any of you have played Concordia, that region should sound familiar. Here you'll be able to use ships to take off and bring back resources to be placed in holds or granary areas. Then you can acquire beautiful artwork in the form of books, paintings, or monuments. You can discover private destinations that stay in your game zone that only you can benefit from, or if they don't get claimed, they will move up the evolving destination area at the end of every period, providing a shared area for all to benefit from. Of course, it is a first come first serve, as all destinations in Amalfi are. You can also ask for help by inviting characters which can provide you benefits from their services. This can either be done by the starting 6 cards that you select at the start of the game, or you can gain them throughout the game in the council area. Finally, you may construct more ships onto your bay, which will provide you with more turns and more optional actions. Alright, first let's talk about what a period is. A period, or you can think of it as rounds, you don't actually have a definitive turn count to end the round. This is because you can cycle your ships from delivering goods to being available for navigating several times per round. There are 4 periods in total. There are 3 phases to each of those periods. You have the action phase, which you will be able to perform several main actions and some optional actions. Once everyone passes and all turns have been taken, we move to the second phase, which is feeding your sailors. The more ships you construct, the more food you must gather. In this case, they only eat bread. Currently, it is 2 bread, but as you construct more ships, the more costly it will be. And finally, the last phase, decree. This is where you check your progress against these red tiles over to the left of the board, which are decrees of different types. In this case, you have the universalism, council, trade, and blessing. If you meet the requirements, you gain points. Since these are randomly drawn, they can change from game to game and provide even more variability. Alright, the solo setup is quite simple. After you set up your own personal board as usual, and I have selected yellow, and for the AI I selected red, all it gets is 10 ships and 6 lighthouses. The AI does not receive a player board. It's just meant to block your moves based on your actions. That means that the AI's actions are not relying on cards to know their next move. It depends on your moves. This makes it so that you already know the consequences of your actions immediately, instead of relying on the luck of the draw from cards or dice, which honestly I kind of like after playing this game. Again, as I play along, I'll be referencing some moves that you can find. It's on a table on page 22 of the rulebook. Alright, we are now ready to move to our first turn of the game. Welcome to round 1. Now, there are a couple of things to consider before we play our first move. In each round, we have objective tiles. In this case, in round 1, my citizens will gain some universalism decree by performing tasks shown on this tile. I would gain 1 point for each artwork I have acquired, but because this decree was randomly selected to be in the first round, it will actually provide me with 4. If it had been added to the second round instead, I would only gain 3 points, and so on. So these tiles are interchangeable and provide variety to the game. Now, it will also gain me points for every discovered tile I have acquired and 3 points for every character I have invited. And remember, invited means I have actually played the card from my hand to my game zone and not just added it to my hand. Another thing you must consider, in the solo mode at least, is that based on the rival you choose to play against, whether it's the Kingdom of Naples or the Republic of Genoa, you will be expected to complete titles. Titles are awarded to those that gain attributes through their tasks, and they are these light and dark green tiles over to the right. Since I am playing against Naples, I only need to make sure I complete 1 tile out of these 3 randomly selected, and by the 4th period I will have to complete 2 of them, any of them. If I were to play against Genoa, I would need to complete 1 tile in the 2nd period, 2 in the 3rd, and 3 in the 4th. Although the rule book doesn't clearly identify which one is more difficult, I think you can easily tell Genoa is a bit more challenging, especially since you need to have at least 1 by the end of just round 2. Also, notice that the first tile, Scholar, these dark tiles seem to provide more points because they are the hardest ones to complete, as it makes you acquire 2 cards for each color and 4 character cards, at least for this one. The next one is awarded to those that are known for being discoverers, and you must have acquired 2 discover tiles, placed at least 2 lighthouses, and invited at least 2 character cards. And finally, the collector, because you like collecting artwork, of course. You need to collect at least 6 of any type of art. And now I get to decide which of the 6 main actions I should start with. And remember, anytime you take an action, you still have to check against your rival's reaction. Alright, now on to my first move. Based on the fact that I have that one objective of gaining extra points from artwork cards and from the collector title, I want to acquire the Last Supper painting, which is this blue card over to the right. Not only because it will gain me a bread and points, but based on the card's location, it will also provide me another bread bonus. As you can tell, there are different either cost or points printed on the board depending on where the cards are sitting at. However, if I'm going to purchase this card, it does require 5 fabric resources, and the way I can gain those is by placing one of my ships onto this destination, which indicates I must spend 2 bread to gain fabric from my resource hold. And remember, there are 5 resource holds: the spices, the wood, wine, gems, and fabric. And now I can move 2 of my ships onto the fabric hold. So by placing 2 ships, it means I will gain 6 fabric pieces and will get to spend them on my next turn. But for now, it is Naples' turn. It's the AI's turn, so because I did the navigation action, it will reference the artwork card furthest to the right, and it goes off the color or the symbol to perform its navigation action. In this case, it's a blue card with a fabric symbol, so we'll add a ship to that destination. However, I'm blocking that destination, so the AI will have to skip its turn this time. And now the turn is back to me, and I want that artwork card. So in order for me to perform the acquisition action, I will need to spend my 2 resources from the fabric hold that I just placed those 2 ships by placing them down onto the bay area. But I only need 5, so what happens to the extra fabric? Well, I get to trade it for bread from one of the locals. Or I could have gone with, I have magic and I can turn resources into bread. Either one, pick one. So the traded bread gets added back to my personal granary down here. I started with 3 bread. I spent 2 for navigation actions earlier, and because the artwork card provides me another bread based on its location of the workshop, I now have 3. And now I'm going to place my recently acquired artwork card in my game zone, which provides me immediate rewards. 1 more bread for a total of 4. And 8 points on the tracker, so I'm on the board. And now we must move all of the artwork cards to the right and refill the last space. It is back to the AI, so because I took the acquisition action, the AI will discard the rightmost artwork card from the workshop. And now I'm going to slide these cards over and refill the cards back. Now, I do want to mention that all of the artwork cards are immediate bonuses. That must be used right after you have purchased them, which means you need to consider whether you can even perform the bonus. Now, you can still purchase the artwork cards and gain the points, but you may miss out on the bonuses you're not able to complete. For example, if my bread granary was full at the time I gained this card, I would lose the additional bread that this card provides because I don't have space to add that bread. It's not like I can cash them in later in the game. So timing with these artwork cards are very important. All right, back to me. Well, this Palermo private destination tile looks good. It will require the 3 spices on the tile plus the one on the printed value, so I'll need a total of 4 spices. So this destination allows me 3 of my ships for just 2 bread. So that sounds good. Let's go ahead and do that. But actually, I'll only be able to use 2 since that's all the ships I'll have instead of the full 3. But that's okay. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll place my ship here. And now I'm going to spend 2 bread and add my 2 ships up to the spice hold so that I can get that Palermo tile on my next turn. So now back to Naples. Again, because I did the navigation action, the AI will use the artwork card furthest to the right to perform its navigation action. And in this case, it's a red wine, the Mandrake. So it will place its ship onto the wine area here, blocking my opportunity to use it during this round. But as for the artwork card that it referenced, fortunately, it doesn't discard it, it just references it. So I still have an opportunity to use it or purchase it if I need it. Now, if it was the Genoa, if I was playing against the Genoa AI, it would have also used the middle bonus, the symbol in the middle, which refers to adding a boat to a spice. It would have also placed another one of its ships onto another destination. So yeah, Genoa is a little bit harder to play against. All right, back to me. And I'm going to perform a discovery action, which essentially allows me to purchase one of these private destination tiles from the Atlas area. And I'm interested in this Palermo tile because it allows me to deliver fabric with one of my ships. It also gives me 3 bread, which is the main reason I wanted it. And it costs either 3 spices or 3 wine, plus the 1 additional cost on the corner, on the printed corner. So that'll be a total of 4 spices. So in order to do that, I'm going to need to spend both my ships and move them down to deliver the 4 spices. Now I'm going to take this Palermo tile and I get to place it in my game zone for the remainder of the game as just another destination area that only I can use as my navigation action in future turns. But for now, I've earned 2 victory points as shown in the top corner. And now we move all the private destination tiles over to the right, and then we're going to flip over another card. This time it's the roads tile, and now it's the AI's turn. Now, because I performed a discovery action, the AI will discard the tile furthest to the right. And now we're going to slide all these tiles over to the right, and then we're going to refill the last tile. All right, so for my next turn, I'm really liking this Venus of Urbino artwork card, and it costs 6 wood or 6 fabric, but it gives me 1 character card and 5 points, so that's a really good one to get. However, in order to get this one, because I don't have enough ships to navigate and gain that much resource, and because I'm blocked in that destination anyway, I'm going to have to perform what the game calls an emergency supply, which is to send my ships from the Bay Area directly to the port. And this provides me with any 3 units of resource of my choice per ship. So I'll choose all 6 resources to be fabric, and this is considered an optional action. So for my main action, I can now perform an acquisition action, and that allows me to go ahead and take this artwork card, place it in my game zone, and immediately receive a character card of my choice from the council area. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and choose Federico to be added to my hand, so that when I invite him in the future to my game zone, he'll provide me a ship to construct for free. And because he was positioned in the far right of the council area, this spot provides a bonus of 1 bread. So now I have a total of 3 bread. Now let's slide all the artwork cards to the right and refill. And then also slide all the character cards to the right and refill the empty slot as well. And because I perform an acquisition action, the AI will discard the rightmost artwork card, and we'll go ahead and refill it. Now, because I place both my ships on the port and I have no other ships in my bay, that immediately ends the current period. I get to reset all of my ships, including these 2 ships, back in my bay at the beginning of the next period. That is the drawback to using the emergency supply optional action, especially when you don't have any ships available. That's why it's called an emergency, right? You definitely want to limit this action as much as possible. Actually, I just realized I forgot to give myself 5 points from this artwork card, so I'll go ahead and add that for a total of 15 points. All right, we have now completed phase 1 actions, and we will now move to phase 2, which is to feed. Basically, we just feed all of our sailors depending on how many ships have been constructed. In my case, I didn't construct any from my shipyard, which means it's only going to cost me 2 bread to feed my sailors, and that means that I am now left with 1 bread to start the next period. All right, so now we're going to move to decree. And moving to decree, which is phase 3, we will get to compare our progress and see how many points we've earned based on the current period's decree. As I may have mentioned before, the decrees here on the left, you have the top one is the universalism. I will earn 4 points for each artwork card I have acquired. I only have 2, so I get 8 more points. That's going to move me to a total of 23 points. I receive 1 point for each discovery tile, and in this case I have 1, so now I'm at 24 points. And finally, I get 3 points per character card, but unfortunately I didn't invite any onto my game zone, so I will stay at 24 points total. And now we flip the tile over and we move to period number 2. And this new decree will give out 7 points for each type of character card you invite in onto your game zone. So I'll try to get at least 2, but we'll see. As for the title points to the right here, these green titles, I still need another private destination for the Discover tile. I'm going to need to also place 2 of my lighthouses and invite 2 characters. For the collector, I just need 4 more artwork cards. And finally, for the scholar, I have completed the blue artwork cards at least, but there's still a lot more to go there. Now, since we are playing the Kingdom of Naples, it says we don't have to worry about those titles just yet until the 3rd period, since I have to have at least 1 completed by then. But for now, I'm on my way. Now, if it would have been the other Kingdom of Genoa, it would have already, it would need at least I think 1 by the 2nd period. So yeah, I'm glad we're playing Naples for now. All right, we're going to move now to the new period, and that means I will collect all of my ships from all the destinations, including any from my port. So that means these 2 that I just used, and place them back in my bay. We will move all of the AI ships back to its space as well. We're going to take the rightmost discovery tile from the Atlas area, in this case the Kaffa discovery tile, and place it on the evolving destination panel to the right. This will go on the topmost empty space, which will now basically become just another public destination for anyone to grab. But at least we don't have to spend to discover it. We can just navigate towards them. And this will happen for each period going forward until the 4th period. As you can see on the right hand lower corner of each space, it has its own round number. And the topmost section is for period number 2. The middle is for number 3. And of course the bottom one is for period number 4. Period 5 does not have one. Oh, let me go ahead and refill the discovery tiles. Next, we're going to discard the rightmost artwork card from the workshop and then refill the cards. We're now going to discard the rightmost character from the council area, and we're going to shift all of the remaining cards to the right. And if we had any lighthouses played out there, we would obviously just leave them there. They remain there for the remainder of the game. And if I had any engagement cards in my game zone, I would straighten that card up had I have tilted it to activate it. But in my case, I don't have any on my game zone yet. And that's it for the first period. We're going to move on to the second period now. Alright, so what I'd like to start with is to gain one of these character cards and activate it into my game zone in a future turn. And I'm very interested in this Region Montanas character, which will provide me with a free private destination every period, so that'll be nice. But it does cost 1 bread just to place it in my hand. So first, I think I'd like to start with going to this destination here that allows me to add one of my lighthouses in any area that permits it. So I will perform the navigation action by placing one of my ships from my bay into this area here. So now I get a chance to place one of my lighthouses out in any of the areas, and I choose my own private destination. This way, every time I go there, I get an extra action. And now I need to go back to the destination because it also requires me to discard one of the artwork cards from the workshop area, the one furthest to the right, and in this case it is the red card. So let me go ahead and slide these over and refill it. Now the AI will also navigate. It will reference the new artwork card furthest to the right, which in this case has 2 destinations to reference, one on the wine and the other on the spices. And place one of its ships here and here, blocking me now in both spots for the remainder of the period. Now back to me. And now for my next move, I'm going to navigate one of my ships onto my private destination. This is going to allow me to add a ship to the fabric hold. So I'll go ahead and move up one of my ships there. I'll also get to add 3 bread to my granary, which I now have a total of 4. And because my lighthouse is there, I'll also be able to perform an extra bonus action. As you can see from the corner of the player board, either I can pay 2 bread and add another ship to that same resource, so I'll have a total of 2 fabrics, or get 1 more bread, giving me a total of 5. So I'm going to go ahead and select the bread, and I'll get a total of 5 bread in my granary. Now, since I performed the navigation action, the AI will attempt a navigation action as well, but because the artwork card furthest to the right is the same as the one previous, it will not be able to place a ship there, since there's already one there. Now, back to me. And now for my next move, I'm going to perform an invitation action to activate one of my character cards onto my game zone. And in this case, it will be Federico, who will allow me to construct 1 ship for free from my shipyard. It will cost me 4 bread to invite him. So now I'm back to 1, and because I performed an invitation action, the AI will discard the rightmost character card of the council. In this case, it will be Isabel. And then we're going to slide all the cards over, making Regiomontanus a little bit cheaper to get. Let me go ahead and refill this empty spot. And now Alfonso has joined us. And now back to me. And now for my next move, I'm going to first perform an optional action, which is to bring down this ship from the fabric hold down to my bay area. This allows me to trade those 3 fabrics I would have received for bread. So now I'm going to have a total of 4 bread. And for my main action, I'm going to perform a navigation action. And I will send one of my ships from the bay area to the evolving destination area. And I'm going to place my ship on this one destination spot, which will cost me 2 bread. But it will allow me to add another lighthouse onto one of these areas. And I'm going to choose this one right here because I feel like there'll be more opportunities for either the AI or myself to place future ships here and activate an additional bonus action for me. Going back to my destination here, it requires that I discard the rightmost artwork card. In this case, it will be the red card here. We're going to slide the cards over and refill. And lastly, I will take advantage of this bonus reward, which is to take one of the character cards from the council area. I'm going to select Regiomontanus and place it onto my hand and be ready to invite him on another turn. And I'll slide these cards over and refill. And because I performed a navigation action, the AI will also perform a navigation action. And because this is a new blue card, it does have 2 resources as a cost on the top left corner. This is for both the fabric and the spice destination areas. So it will attempt to place both ships there. Unfortunately for the AI, it only has space for the fabric destination. And now back to me. And now for my next move, I'm going to perform a navigation action and place one of my ships from my bay area over to this destination here, which will provide me 4 bread. And now I have a total of 6. This is at a cost of removing a character card in the council area, the one furthest to the right. This one will be removed, and we're going to slide these over. And now Michelangelo is available. And I like this card because you can pay 1 less resource to acquire one of the 2 artwork cards with the most points. So that's a good one. And now, since I performed a navigation action, the AI will attempt to also navigate, but unfortunately the artwork card corresponds to the destination area, which is already occupied. And now back to me. And now I'm going to perform an invitation action by activating Regiomontanus onto my game zone, and that will cost me 4 bread. I'm now down to 2, and I'll be able to activate him in the next turn. Now, because I performed an invitation action, the AI will discard the rightmost character card from the council area, and unfortunately that means it will take away Michelangelo from me, but Alfonso is up next. Okay, I'm down to just 1 ship, so I'm going to pass. It's really hard in this game to perform a navigation action when you're just down to 1 ship because you don't have any of the backup ships to move up any of the resource holds, so you kind of miss out on some of the resources. So for my last move, I'm going to perform just an optional action, which is to sell one of my character cards from my hand to acquire some bread, because I'm about to feed some sailors and I don't want to give up any of my hard-earned points to pay. The good news is that I just now realized that I have actually completed the Discoverer title. I have the 2 discovered private destinations. I have played at least 2 lighthouses out into destinations. And I have 2 character cards already played in my game zone. So I should have immediately placed one of these cubes into the Discoverer title, but I'll go ahead and do so now. So that will give me an additional 12 points. So now I'm at 39 points. This also means that I will survive the third period and be able to play at least until the fourth period. Remember to reference the solo requirements to see if you were able to continue playing, because if you don't meet them, you have to end the game at the end of that current period. At least that's how that works in the solo mode. All right, I think I'm going to sell Manuel to acquire 1 bread, which will give me 3 total bread, just enough to feed my sailors. And because I didn't take any main action, the AI will also skip any actions. We will now move to the second phase, which is to feed your sailors. So there goes 3 of my bread. I now have 0. We move now to phase 3, the decree phase. In this period, we have the council decree. This entitles me to 7 points per different type of character cards. And in this case, I have 2 types of character cards already on the game zone. Of course, the ones in your hand do not count. They have to be invited. But I get 14 points for that decree, and now I'm at 53 total points. Now we'll flip this decree tile over to indicate that the current period is over. And before we move to period number 3, we do need to prepare the game for the new period, or as I like to call it, the maintenance phase. So let's go ahead and collect all of the ships that we've played so far back into our bay. And then grab any of the AI's ships as well and place them back into its area. We're going to take the rightmost discovery tile and place it in the evolving destination area. In this case, we are moving into period 3, so we're going to place this Limassol destination. Now let's slide all the discovery tiles over and refill the empty space. Next, we're going to discard the rightmost artwork card in the workshop and move all these cards over to the right and refill the empty space. Then we're going to straighten all the engagement type cards that we've played so far. Finally, we're going to discard the rightmost character card from the council, and unfortunately, there goes Alfonso. And then we're going to move everything over and refill. And now we're ready to start period number 3. However, I'm going to fast forward to the end of period 4 to show you what the end of game looks like with this solo mode. That is, if I survive that far. If not, I'll show you how I lost. All right, I survived rounds 3 and 4. We have come to the end of the 4th period. I ended up with 103 points so far. I was able to complete both titles, the Discoverer and the Collector. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to complete the Scholar. I just couldn't get enough of the green artwork cards. And that's because the AI blocked me in this destination. And as for my private destination, I was very limited on gems as well. So the last move I had was to place all 3 of my ships into the port. I got kind of desperate at the end. I needed to get this last end of game scoring card from Charles just to have additional points. But anyway, let's move to the second phase and feed our sailors. Fortunately, I have 5 bread, so I'll feed them with 4 bread, which is required since I was able to construct more ships from my shipyard. Now on to phase 3 and score from my last decree, the Blessing Decree. And it says that I will get 10 points per set of red, green, and blue artwork cards. Or I can choose to score 3 points per pair of different types of artwork cards. And since I was unable to complete any sets, I will have to go with option 2. I have 3 pairs of different types of artwork cards, meaning they're different symbols. As you can see at the bottom right-hand corner here, this one has a triangle and this one has a circle. So I have 3 of those times the 3 points. That means I have 9 points from that decree, bringing my total to 112. And lastly, we checked to see if we played any end of game character cards. And in this case, I was able to invite Charles, the Roman Emperor. And it says I earned 4 points for each of my lighthouses I have built. And as you can see, I've built 3 here and 1 on the main board. So that's a total of 4 that I've built times the 4 points. That's 16 points that I'm going to add to my score, which brings it to a total of 128. And if we look at the reference found on page 23, there are different tiers of accomplishments. And since I got 128, I fall into the second tier, and it says, by dint of perseverance, You will write your name in the history of Amalfi. Keep hoping. But on to final thoughts. All right, welcome to Final Thoughts, where I discuss the overall experience of the game and the solo mode. So let's start with the components. The artwork is good, but nothing out of the ordinary or anything that really stands out, other than the colors that are lively and the characters are interesting. It's got that old style art from the Renaissance period. It really brings you into the story. I love the wooden components, from the details of the lighthouse to the ships. The tiles are double layered, thick board, and I like how they are cut out to fit the lighthouses or the titles that fit the cubes. And the main board is dual layered to fit all the pieces. It's impressive. And the dual layer player board is fantastic. Actually, the entire board is very well designed, where you have all the references on one side panel of the board, and you have all your resources at the top accessible to the Bay Area in the middle. It's just really well how it just kind of all plays together. Now, as for the game mechanics, I simply love the multiple use of the ships, where you can use them as either resources or worker placement. I like how you can manipulate the resources to pay for cost, but also gain bread to spend in other areas, which really opens up an opportunity to expand your strategy, especially when you're in tight situations. The characters have such tempting bonuses and triggering effects that you just want to invite all of them. If there is one thing that this game got right, it's the amount of opportunities it provides you in combining different strategies into your plans. Like how the starting cards are deliberately constructed for a more structured strategy, but then later you can add to your hand and it just adjusts as you pivot around challenges. You just have to know when to use them. My starting cards, for example, were meant to boost ships, and I didn't really take advantage of that. If you ever get a chance to draft for characters, look at the decrees or titles just to see what the objectives look like, because you can really get some high scores combining them all. Now back to the decree tiles, they have an interesting dynamic where they can change their point value based on where on the decree period they end up, which just adds to variability of the game. The private destinations, I think, for me, is the most interesting part of all, because up to this point, anyone can land on a destination on the board. But if you get a private destination discovered in your area, then only you can take advantage of the bonuses, even in the solo mode. Alright, now onto some minor dislikes. The cards are a little bit flimsy, but if you sleeve them, I guess they'll be okay. And then back to the board. Now there is a trade-off having the dual layer board. I think it can get a bit finicky to place pieces and move them around. I don't know if maybe it's just my fingers are too big, but I had a really hard time moving them without sometimes jamming them, especially the bread. It may be the grooves, I don't know. Also, I'm not a fan of an undetermined amount of turns during rounds. Like, you can really stretch rounds if you start building your ships, and if you're playing multiplayer, I can only imagine that probably will create a lot of downtime, especially when you pass and your opponent has like 3 or 4 more moves left. And then add any AP challenges and oh boy, you better get some extra popcorn. Fortunately, with the solo mode, the AI is quick and easy to manage. It is a beat your own score, but sometimes you just need an AI that blocks you and adds obstacles in your path as you try to get better at navigating around them. And I think it's interesting the way that the game has built that AI mechanism where it reacts based on your actions. And that really makes you think about the consequences of your actions. I really like the way that's done. But overall, this game really surprised me. I really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot more to discover here. I've only touched the surface, and I believe I can really take advantage of the game's multiple paths to higher points and really learn different strategies to improve. This one is definitely staying in my collection. It's going to be one of my favorites of this year, and I really just can't wait to get it back on the table. But that's it for me. Until our next board game adventure, hope you had a great time with this one.